Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach. And this is Dadvice TV Live. It is April 1st, which is April Fool's Day, but we are not fooling you here. We are bringing you great information from kidney professionals that will help you live longer and live better while you happen to have kidney disease. All right, now today, and we're going to jump right into this. We have a half an hour of answering your questions live here on the air. Let me get some of these. Hey, Candy just said hello. Hi, how are you doing? See, this is live. All of you guys can see all this stuff. Oh, and I see we got someone from the Reddit group. It's a fantastic group over there of kidney patients sharing information, helpful tips, recipes, all sorts of stuff. Now, speaking of all sorts of great stuff and recipes and stuff, my co-host, who is always here the first Tuesday of every month, has a fantastic website with an amazing blog that you can easily search, find recipes, all sorts of advice, questions about milk, questions about this, questions about that. There's probably all sorts of answers right there to help you make great choices about the things you eat, because we all know when you got kidney disease, that can be scary or confusing at times. She also has an amazing Facebook group. If you're looking for recipes, you're looking for ideas, how did people add some variety or tweak it for certain things that they want to limit, or things that, hey, I'm good to have this, I want to have more of it because I love it. She's got a great Facebook group book all about that. I'm getting a little tongue twisted. Let me go ahead and bring on my co-host who's going to answer your questions today. So go ahead and start typing them down there in the comments. Please welcome renal dietitian Jen Hernandez. Hey Jen, how you doing?
Hi, James. I'm doing really, really great. So excited to see you again this April Fool's. But like you said, no jokes today. And if I do make a joke, it'll probably be a really corny one. And we'll just all you'll have to laugh along with me because I think I'm hilarious. But I'm very excited to meet with you all tonight and to answer some questions for kidney disease and focusing on a renal diet. For those of you who don't know who I am, who are brand new to watching us on Dadvice on these special episodes, my name is Jen and I am a renal dietitian. I have been a renal dietitian for over 10 years now. I don't keep track of dates. I don't keep track of time, but I do know it's been over 10 years. And I have spent my career helping kidney patients eat really, really well, eat more foods that protect their kidney function and help them delay or prevent dialysis entirely. Although I have spent a good chunk of my career also helping kidney patients through dialysis and also through transplant. And I love helping people find their renal diet because what we know now is there's no such thing as a renal diet. It is all individualized based on you and what's going on for your health. So I love to talk about it, and I do that every day at Plant Powered Kidneys. And like James mentioned, we have a lot of information at plantpoweredkidneys.com, a ton of free resources, free meal plans, and tons of information. And then also our Facebook group is a wonderful place to join as well for more community support, and that is also free.
Yep, and there are links in the description to both those. I encourage everyone to check those out and join the group. And one of the things I like best about the group, and then we'll jump into questions, is that everyone in there is so supportive and so positive. If you come in and you say, hey, I just got diagnosed, I'm not sure what to eat, they're not going to jump on you. They're not going to say, well, here's exactly what you got to do. You got to avoid this, this, this. Because the best diet is individualized for you based on your labs. And you will be surprised when you work with a dietitian just what you can eat, which means you get to enjoy your meals. Now, let's go ahead and dive right into the questions. And I'm going to start with one of the questions from Granting Apex, because he's from a Reddit group that I participate in often. And I told everyone, if you're in that Reddit group, let me know. I'll make sure and read your question on the air. So he recently entered after 13 months, stage 2 from 3A. Good move, going up. That's great. Any dietary changes you recommend, Jen? And he's currently on 60 grams of protein a day. And I noticed
Oh,
the light from the sun is
I,
shining right on
I
your face,
told
like you
you.
and I were talking about.
I told you. I told people too. It's like I really I want to enjoy more of the sunlight as long as it's not like that's okay. It's okay. This is fine.
Hey, the
This
advice
is
is still great, even with the spotlight on you.
I'll just do it one-eyed, maybe. I don't know. Um, okay, so yes, this is a great question. In the earlier stages, one of the things that I really, really focus on, well, some of the things, not just one, because it's a juggling act, right? When we talk about kidney disease, we are talking about a multitude of nutritional aspects, which is kind of one of the reasons why it drives me crazy when doctors tell patients, like, don't worry about your diet. It's like there's sodium, there's phosphorus, there's protein, there's potassium, there's fiber. Like, why isn't the diet discussed more? But I'll get on that soapbox later. I don't know. I want to answer this without getting too distracted. So, number one, when you're in earlier stages of CKD, and really any stage of CKD, sodium is so, so important. And it's not a goal of 0 milligrams of sodium. In fact, I
Mm-hmm.
actually just had a session with a client today who was in the hospital for low sodium. She wasn't, we don't know the full context as far as what exactly caused it, because there's a lot of things going on, but she had low sodium levels. And so she was treated with sodium tabs to help bring her sodium level back up. But all of that to say, the goal is not 0 milligrams of sodium. The goal is less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. That is the heart healthy standard recommendation and the recommendation for kidney patients. And in some cases, aiming for about 1,500, 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day, that might be a good guideline for somebody who has a lot of heart issues, a lot of cardiovascular issues, or who needs like maybe tighter control of their blood pressure or their cardiovascular health. So it might be somewhere around 1,500. Usually when I'm working with kidney patients, we're aiming for about that 2,300 milligrams or less. I try to get them around that 2,000 milligrams because, well, one, we add salt to our foods because it enhances flavor. And again, it is an electrolyte that the body does need. It's just a matter of how much we get. Now, when you say, "Oh, I don't use the salt shaker at home," and that's fine. The salt shaker is not where we're getting sodium
Mm-hmm.
from. We're getting sodium from processed foods. And so I'm looking at things like breads and tortillas. Tortillas, there's been a big thing right now about like these high fiber tortillas that have like
Mm-hmm.
20 plus grams of fiber in them. But for some reason, people aren't looking at the sodium. Yeah, I know it's a lot of fiber, but people aren't even looking at the sodium. And a tortilla can have 500, 600, 700 milligrams of sodium. It can have more than a third or basically a meal's worth of sodium in just that one tortilla. So breads and tortillas they can be very, very high in sodium. And then bread, sometimes people think, oh, it's, 200 milligrams for the bread. But if we're usually having bread, we're generally having two slices, like two slices of toast, making a sandwich with two slices. So I'm always thinking like we're probably going to double that sodium for your meal, most likely. If you stick to one, that could be okay. But even so, 200 milligrams of sodium for a piece of bread is a bit high. So aiming for about 120 milligrams, maybe a little bit less. I know there's some low sodium breads that are actually 0 milligrams of sodium. I was talking with another
Ezekiel.
client. It's nothing against them. It tastes exactly like a 0 milligram sodium bread would taste like. It just
I've
I love
never
it.
tried it.
It's got to have a little salt to me. I mean, if you try it and you like it, then that's great. Like if you genuinely like it, that's really great. But if it's something that you feel like you have to have because it's 0 milligram sodium, just look for something that's about 100 milligrams, 120 milligrams. There's quite a few options. And we have a whole article on plantpoweredkidneys.com that covers a lot of low sodium bread options. And then we also give you guidelines of what to look for when you're shopping for bread in your grocery store. So you just have this like basically template of what to look for kidney friendly bread. So this is kind of getting into a specific example, but sodium in general, 2,300 milligrams or less. Another thing that was mentioned specifically when we talk about earlier stages of CKD is protein. And even earlier stages, it's recommended to be a bit more cautious with protein. And if you can, do a little bit more plant protein as well. Now, it's not a matter of cutting out protein, just like sodium. Your body still needs these nutrients. It's the question, the thing we're addressing is how much can your body safely manage to take care of you and give you these nutrients without overloading, without overworking your kidneys. So when it comes to protein, the general guidelines we're starting at is 0.8 grams per kilogram. That is a standard protein recommendation, even for the general public, for the general population, 0.8 grams per kilogram. In some cases, going a little bit under that might be okay if you don't have diabetes and blood sugar issues. However, if you're going underneath 0.8 grams per kilogram, you are at a higher risk of malnutrition because you're not getting enough protein. So if you're going to eat a lower protein diet, and also, shocker, we have an article about low protein diet on the blog. But if you want to learn more about this, if you want to look into a lower protein diet, please discuss it with your healthcare provider, work with a dietitian, make sure you have that medical coverage, because the worst thing in the world is thinking that you're doing all of these things, you're pulling out all of this stuff, thinking that you're protecting your kidneys. And what if it's not the right thing? What if it's not the right move for you? What if you're not an appropriate candidate for a lower protein diet? That's what I want you to be cautious with, because I don't want you to starve yourself. I don't want you to do that. So aiming for that 0.8 grams per kilogram is usually a good place to start. And again, the more plants, if you can do like 50% of your protein coming from plants, that's a really, really good thing to do. Finally, I'll do one more thing about this, is potassium. Potassium is a gold mine of benefits. And
Yeah.
I know people
The
are, oh my
heart.
gosh, yes, it's so helpful for your blood pressure, for your heart health, for your muscular health. It's so important. And most people don't get enough potassium to begin with. And what breaks my heart is when somebody comes to me and they're not eating nearly enough potassium, and then they say, oh, I think I should probably cut out bananas, or I think I need to watch out. I'm like, honey, you are not even close. You're getting, maybe 2,000 milligrams of potassium a day, which, for the record, is about how much somebody on dialysis with zero kidney function would be getting. So for somebody who has earlier stage, meaning about 60% kidney function, take advantage of the fact that your kidneys are able to manage that potassium. And I'm not saying like shoot for the moon and you're going to have a whole bushel of potatoes, but it's definitely okay to have more potassium than we think, because not only are you getting that potassium, but you're getting other nutrients like fiber. That's also really, really important for kidney and overall health. So make sure you pay attention to your fiber in those early stages, and don't cut things out. Don't be limiting things unless you have a specific explained medical directed order to limit your potassium. And that's really not as common as we think. I recently on Instagram and Facebook, I posted a video about how it's actually very, very not likely that CKD patients need to be limiting potassium, or that they have a risk of having high blood potassium levels. It's actually much less often than we think. So those are the main things. I do have a stage 3 guide on the website as well, so feel free to take a look at that. It is a book as a blog. It is a very, very big article. So take your time going through that to read up on stage 3. We go through a lot in there, and hopefully that helps.
Now, since you mentioned fiber,
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin Grandma is a regular asked, is Fiber One cereal a good source of fiber?
Um, Probably. What I like to look at with cereals are the ingredients, number one, and then, of course, the nutrition facts. But the reason I like to look at the ingredients is because of the phosphate. And cereals are oftentimes fortified. They have added vitamins, which is great. But in some cases, with this fortification comes phosphates. And these phosphates, these added phosphorus ingredients, are adding phosphorus into our bloodstream, which we actually get a lot more of. The average American gets plenty of phosphorus in our diet. And with kidney disease, that managing of phosphorus over time becomes a struggle. And in the later stages of kidney disease, when phosphorus levels are high, it can be hard to reel them back in. So I recommend when it's possible to avoid phosphate additives that are found in the ingredients list, anything with PHOS, anything with phos. A really easy example to find in the grocery store is go look at some colas because their ingredient list isn't too long, but you'll see phosphoric acid oftentimes in cola. And so that's an example of a phosphate that you would find as an additive. Um, so back to the cereals, I would just check to see if there's any added phosphates. There was a cream of wheat I had talked about before that has added phosphorus in the form of iron because they're fortifying the cream of wheat with iron, but it comes in a phosphate form, meaning you're getting the iron, but you're also getting the phosphorus. So I have an article on the website. My default answer. I have an article about
Well,
that.
the website is just so helpful and it's great. It's not behind a paywall. It's easy to go there and access all these.
And some of the articles I do because I know there's ads and there's a lot of distractions online. And some of the articles I am working to get downloadable PDFs for. So I do have a few of those. They're a couple bucks, and you get just a nice, clean PDF document that you can download and print, and it's totally ad free and it's very easy to read if that's an option, if that's something you want as well. But yeah, it's everything on the website is free to read. And we do have an article about cereal. I don't remember the Fiber One brands being on there, but it's not
I
totally
I looked it
comprehensive.
up. The good
Oh, you
news
did?
is no phosphorus additives,
Great.
but for it is iron and zinc, and it just says mineral nutrients. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
specify what those are.
Okay. So it's a possibility. If it's not listed on there specifically being called out as a phosphate, then let's say it's okay, and you can always talk to your doctor about getting your phosphorus levels checked. It's not going to be a drastic change, and usually phosphorus levels, if you get them checked once every 3 months, once every 6 months, if you're in earlier stages, like once a year, is usually fine. So in most cases, it's probably going to be okay. And Fiber One in general, their brand, they're putting fiber in, they're adding fiber into their cereals, which is really great. Fiber is so important, and most of us don't get enough of it. So if you find something that has a good amount of fiber in there, which for the record, 25 grams per day for women, 38 grams per day for men, that's the fiber goal. If you can hit that consistently, you're doing so well. You really are.
Fiber is your friend. All right, here is a great question. And you and I were just starting to talk about this right before we had to go live. Diane Grover asked, she says, stage 3B, she's been eating plant based meals. Great. She has diabetes and she's also on Ozempic. Her eGFR went from 39 to 21 within 2 months. Is that normal? And for everyone out there, I just got yesterday a prescription for one of the SGLT2s. Um, and I believe that's what Ozempic is, correct? Is it one of the SGLT2s or is it a GLP-1?
Yeah, I believe it's an SGLT2. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard. There's
one of those ones that helps you lose weight. I got a prescription. I start it tomorrow. And Jen asked me, hey, what did they tell you about the drop? So this is perfect timing because they did not say anything.
Yes. So, what can happen with these new medications? There are actually quite a few new medications that are coming out that are being approved for multiple purposes, like type 2 diabetes or weight loss. But then they're also saying, hey, it's also potentially helpful for chronic kidney disease. So, this is a really good time to have that appointment with your doctor and bring up that conversation of, are there any new medications? Is there anything we can medically be doing to protect my kidneys? And these medications that are coming out, I've heard this a lot with people, is that they say, oh, my doctor told me to start this new medication and then my GFR dropped. And what I've had to do, and this, I've talked about this in the Facebook group, I've talked about this with some clients, that there is an expected drop with the GFR of these medications, but it rebounds and then maintains. So talk with your doctor about research, or a lot of these companies, these drug companies, have great patient education and patient information on their websites. So you can just do a search, look up the medication, look up the site, look at the patient side, and they will usually present some type of graphic, which is, I'm a very visual learner, a visual person. They will show these graphics of the medication compared to a placebo, aka somebody not doing anything different. And what they see is, yes, this new medication, there's like a drop compared to the other one, maybe that's kind of staying closer to the same. There's this drop, but then again, it comes back up, almost back to that baseline of where it started. And then over time, the one who took the placebo, it's going down, and the one who's on the medication, they're not going down as quickly. So it's really, really important to talk with your doctor about these changes in the GFR if you see that drop, and to say, okay, when can we get this rechecked? When can we get this retested? This drop, this change, I believe it was like 6 months or so. And I know for kidney patients, it is scary when you see that drop and then you think, oh, I'm not going to be able to see anything different for months. But I'm telling you, like, it takes some time, it takes some trust in the system. But if you don't know, please open that line of communication with your doctor and ask them for more explanation. Ask them, and if they say, oh, this is for your kidney disease, and then your GFR drops, literally tell them, okay, you said this was for my kidneys, but my GFR dropped. What does this mean? What's going on here? So make sure you talk with your doctor about it, because they should be providing you more of an explanation. And again, you can look up the website of the drug company, and they will have data on there for you as well. But when they put out these news blasts and these commercials saying, oh, this is good for chronic kidney disease, they have done their research and they have proven that it is helpful. So you're not a guinea pig. This is something that they've tested and they've found to be clinically beneficial for kidney disease. But I know it's scary. I know it's a lot. So just open up that line of communication with your doctor.
Very good. Here's a question from Nora. She says, do carbohydrates affect the kidneys in a bad way, or are they safe? And does fasting help increase your eGFR?
Okay, so there's a few things to cover in here. The carbohydrates in general, no, carbohydrates are good. They are a foundation for a kidney-friendly diet. And when I was talking earlier about protein and having moderate protein intake, we have three macronutrients. We have proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And when we're being careful with one, aka protein, the other two, carbohydrates and fats, they're going to have to compensate. They're going to have to raise a little bit to compensate for less protein. And this is where I do like to focus on a little bit more carbohydrates than fats. I don't want to do a ton of fat because there's a lot of cardiovascular health concerns for kidney patients. So we do want to have healthy fats in the diet, but I don't want to crank those all the way up and not include more carbohydrates. But there is a quality to carbohydrates, meaning you want to make sure that when you are having your higher amount of carbohydrates, that you're choosing whole grains, you're having more fruits and vegetables, aka you're having the things that are giving you more of that fiber. So getting more fiber. If I see somebody who is doing a food log for me and they're hitting their carbohydrate goal, but they're not hitting their fiber goal, that tells me they're not choosing enough quality carbohydrates, aka lower fiber carbohydrates. They're choosing ones that are simple sugars that aren't providing the fiber. And that's what we need to do is switch. We need to do some changes. So I was just talking with a client earlier this afternoon about getting more fiber in, getting in more fruits and vegetables to hit that fiber and more carbohydrates for her day. So she could exercise and do all the things that she was doing to keep her kidneys healthy. But carbohydrates in themselves are not going to be that bad for kidneys. Now, if you have diabetes and kidney disease, I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, I have diabetes and I can't have carbohydrates. It's the same concept. It really, really is. And I know it sounds so boring and it sounds like almost stupid because you're like, wait a minute. Like, no, I hear all over the place, carbohydrates are bad. It's quality over quantity. That's the focus. So getting more fiber is going to help control your blood sugars. I've told people before, and I think I've said it on here, it's like putting a semi truck on the freeway during rush hour. You're going to slow everybody down. That's what the fiber does. It goes into your digestive system and it slows everything down. It helps slow down that blood sugar absorption. So it's very important for people, even with diabetic kidney disease, to have carbohydrates coming from sources that are fiber rich, like whole grains, fruits, vegetables. Very, very important. The final part of that question was fasting. And I get this question
Mhm.
a lot too. Um, there's not enough research with kidney patients specifically to say that fasting is beneficial with GFR. There's been some research to say it can be potentially damaging and there needs to be medical supervision. So if you do any type of fasting for religious purposes, then be sure to discuss it with your doctor so that you do have a plan in place and they are going to be able to monitor things for you, and they may make some changes related to that plan. You need to make sure that they know. But in general, fasting has not been studied to show benefit in improving GFR.
Here's a question I would love for you to answer. It's not diet related, but it's for Wisconsin grandma. And she
Mm.
doesn't say her age, but she says grandma. Should I stop exercising if my creatinine is high? Um, her oncologist mentioned it was high. So, what's your advice for someone and exercise?
Well, kind of. So this is slightly outside of my scope, but I do talk with patients a lot about exercising, and I've worked with a lot of athletic clients who do a lot of physical activity. Um, I'm curious, Wisconsin grandma, did your doctor ask you about your exercise regimen before putting that out to me? To me, it kind of sounds like when a doctor or a healthcare practitioner, they see a high potassium blood level and they say, stop eating high potassium foods, like before even asking, like, let's talk, or looking at a diet recall and saying, how many milligrams of potassium were you eating? Like, does that make sense related to your blood work? So, are you exercising a ton? And if that's the case, then a lot of like heavy, high intensity activity, it is recommended that you don't do that in the like 2 days before a lab draw. But walking, like research shows that walking is really, really helpful in lowering creatinine. And so just going out on a walk every day, that's not going to boost your creatinine. However, supplements can increase your creatinine, muscle wasting, or any type of muscle loss, which can mean if you're not eating well, if you're not eating enough and your body's breaking down muscle, you might have higher creatinine levels from there. But then also eating a lot of protein, that can also increase creatinine levels. There's a lot of factors in there. So it's this whole concept of like, I hope if that's what they're focusing on with you, I hope that because they know your medical history, they know what's going on for you. I hope they know more about like, we've already determined that this is probably the cause. And if so, then absolutely, follow those guidelines. If they haven't gone through and discussed the different potential problems, then that would be a good question to put back to them to say, well, what else could be causing this right now? And looking at the history, looking at my trends, because we never look at just one lab test, we look at the trend and looking at that, what else could be going on here? So I think it's important to get some more ideas and context from that.
Yeah, and she added a little bit. She's 67, loves her treadmill, which is fantastic because all the doctors I talk to, Wisconsin grandma, encouraged to stay active, not to do
Yeah.
the intense exercise, but stay active. It's important for your muscle health, which if you let that go, not eating right, not staying active, could put you at a higher risk for a fall, which puts you at a risk for a break or a fracture. And when we get older, those can be more difficult and take more time to heal. So it sounds like you might maybe you were just overdoing it. Your doctor said do it for 15 minutes and you exercise for a half hour. Though half hour of walking doesn't sound bad. But yeah, as many things here that Jen has talked about, communication with your doctor is really important, or your entire healthcare team, and hopefully one of the people on your healthcare team is a dietitian. Now, Jen, we are right out of time. Do you see anything there that you want to answer before we in tonight's call?
Let's see. I know there's a lot that was dropped in. Let's see. I'm gonna scan it really quick.
Let's see if there's any I can give it. Oh, and I did look up that one Ozempic is a GLP-1, which I
Mhm.
was also cleared for by my doctor, but whoo, those things are expensive, so I got to figure out how that will fit into my budget. But I will be taking, starting tomorrow, an SGLT2, which has a side effect of
Mhm.
losing weight. Is protective for your health and good for your kidneys, and it can now be prescribed for kidney patients. So I am excited to get that, and probably in a month or two, I'll hopefully figure out how to fit one of those GLPs also into my diet, because I've leaned very heavy on the delicious carbs and gained a lot of weight, and a pill can help me along with going to the gym and walking, especially now that it's getting nicer outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done in tandem with the medications, and the GLP ones also they do have that GFR dip, so that is something to be aware of.
Hmm.
There was one I saw about milk. I think there was
Oh,
a question like,
yes.
yeah,
Here it
there's
is.
one about
Wisconsin grandma. Also, what kind of milk?
grandma. We're just chatting with you, grandma. Um, okay, so surprise, surprise, I have an article for this. Okay, so there's going to be a ton of information that you can go look at and compare the different types. It comes down to several things. So protein for one, cow's milk, soy milk, it's going to be higher protein, about 8 grams for a glass, for an 8 ounce glass of either of those, about. And then there's also the potassium content, and those can vary a lot between different plant milks and then cow. And I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head, which is why I'm referencing the article, because I do have all the numbers there. But when this is live, I don't have that preparation time for you. So definitely check out that article. Some of the things to consider besides that could be phosphorus. And I say this particularly to those plant milk options because there's a lot of them now that are out there and they do have added phosphates, so they can be fine, but just you got to do some label reading. The shelf stable ones, there are some that are fine, but they also often have phosphates for that preservation. So just keep that in mind. But there are so many out there that are available that are totally fine. It really just depends on what you like and including them, as with everything, in moderation. And I know that's just like the worst thing dietitians say. Moderation is like it's our go-to, but it's not wrong. And I was talking to one of my renal dietitian friends the other day, like we always have the most boring advice because we say more fruits and more vegetables, and somehow people don't always believe us. But that's really it. That's really like it, so often that's what it comes down to. So the more that we can get more of those whole foods in, then the better it can be.
Perfect. And I want to do one last question. Susan asks, says she enjoys cooking. She needs simple recipes for a renal diet. And I want to encourage Susan, please join Jen's Facebook group. Let me tell you, not only are people sharing some recipes, but they're taking pictures of it so it looks great. You can tell if something looks really good that you might like to try it. They're also saying, hey, here's what I did to reduce sodium. I don't like X that's in there. Maybe it's mushrooms. Here's what I substituted. And they're showing the pictures and telling you about it. And there's so many easy to use and easy to follow recipes in there. And if you like certain kinds of foods, you can post in there that, hey, what are some ideas? Have other people found that's delicious? I like eating X, Y, and Z. And you're going to be thrilled to see all the different recipe ideas that people are going to provide, because it is an extremely supportive group. And I'm going to bring Jen back up here with her QR code. If you scan that with your phone, that will take you right to her website, which has a link to her group as well as recipes on it. And there's also a link down below in the description. And Jen's here every month, so that's another great resource to come and learn more about it. And from time to time, Jen does cool classes that can give you all sorts of tools and skills to help you in making the right decisions, coming up with ideas and stuff like that, snack ideas to get you going and make you feel empowered, and not afraid of food. So I encourage all of that. I know it was like a long giant ad for plant powered kidneys and Jen's website, but it is so awesome and worth it. You all should be there. All right,
And we do
Jen.
have a lot of our articles too. Like I have an article talking about like potassium comparison in beans, and then I do have recipe ideas. And I'm a really big fan of like recipe templates, I like to call them. Like choose a half cup of beans that you like and add a quarter cup of salsa that you like. I like to make it really flexible. So a lot of the articles that I have on plantpoweredkidneys.com include recipe ideas there as well.
Awesome. All right, Jen. I was going to say, any last minute things you would add to that? And you came right through with it. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been fantastic. And again, check out our Facebook group. Jen also does Q&A sessions like this from time to time on her Facebook group. So you don't have to wait for the once a month here. You can get a hold of her and so many other positive and supportive people in her Facebook group. And her website is just full of all sorts of helpful stuff. All right. Thank you so much, Jen. And thank you, everyone, for joining. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.